Hi folks, welcome to RJA Impact. Today we're going to be taking a look at the route that Kristin Smart took on the day of her disappearance, and also the locations of some of the houses nearby that the police have searched over the years. This is the third in the series about Kristin's disappearance. The first gives the background to Kristin and Paul Flores, and the second gives a complete timeline over the years up to and since her disappearance, to the point at which two people are awaiting trial, Paul Flores and his father Ruben Flores. Paul has been charged with the murder of Kristin and his father with being an accessory for helping hide Kristin's body. Let's zoom in first towards San Luis Obispo County, which is on the west coast of the US in California, about 200 miles north by northwest of Los Angeles. Zooming in a bit further, we can see the outer line of the Cal Poly campus, and as you can see it has quite a bit of land outside the town, but most of the buildings and dorms are located at a smaller region just on the edge of town, as you can see here. And so to the night of May the 24th, 1996. Kristin leaves with some friends, including one of her dorm friends, Margarita, and they get into a truck with another friend. They're looking for a party. Now they stop shortly thereafter at a house just off Foothill Boulevard and watch some guys play video games until they decide that this really isn't what they're after, and they may have had a beer or two at that party. Now they left that party and Kristin suggested that the driver lead them at the corner of California and Foothill Boulevard so that they could keep looking for another party on foot. Now during this search, Margarita gets tired and tells Kristin that she needs to pee and wants to go home, and Kristin and Margarita separate at this point. Kristin walks on Foothill towards Crandall Way and there finds a birthday party being thrown by Ryan Swampy Felds at 135 Crandall Way. One last zoom in and we get to the site of the party, 135 Crandall Way. It's unclear how much Kristin had or hadn't had to drink up until this point, and it is also unclear from people's memory whether she drank at the party. Some say she was drinking and some say she wasn't drinking. Now there were three key people involved in the story that attended the party. Firstly, Cheryl Anderson. She was a student already acquainted with Kristin and who lived in a campus dormitory. Tim Davis, a Cal Poly student who lived off campus. And finally, Paul Flores. He was 19 at the time and a food science major. He lived on campus in the Santa Lucia dorm, room number 128. Tim reported that on the night he saw Paul Flores and he had fallen on top of Kristin at one point, and apparently there was an exchange of light humour as they both got up off the floor. At around 1:30 to 2 a.m, so this is on the 25th of May 1996, the party began to break up and people started to walk back to campus. When Kristin left, she went to lie down on the lawn of the next door neighbour's home at 137 Crandall Way. Cheryl Anderson at this time had been looking for friends to walk back with in vain, and Tim Davis offered to walk back to campus with Cheryl. He lived off campus and his car was in the same direction as Cheryl's dormitory. At this point I'll move to the map view as it's slightly clearer to show the final route we're looking at. So at this point, Cheryl Anderson and Tim Davis are hanging around the front yard at the Crandall Way party, and Tim notices Kristin apparently passed out on the neighbour's lawn. Tim helped Kristin to her feet and told her she needed to go home, but it's clear to him that she's in no state to get back home by herself, so Cheryl says that they need to help take her to her dorm. As it was an unusually inclement night, Kristin wasn't really dressed for it and complained of the cold. and at approximately 2 a.m, Tim, Cheryl and a staggering Kristin began to slowly make their way back to the Poly campus and their respective dormitories. After only a very short while, Paul Flores approached the trio from behind and offered to help walk Kristin back to the dormitory. They walked on with his arm around her waist and her arm around his neck, and made their way up Crandall Way. The 4 students then cut behind the recreation centre to Perimeter Road on campus, and near Perimeter Road, Tim Davies said goodnight and headed towards his car, leaving Cheryl, Kristin and Paul continuing a slow walk to their dorms. Cheryl, while being deposed, said Kristin and Paul would occasionally stop. Paul, holding Kristin, would tell Cheryl to go ahead if you want, and she said this was a little strange, but waited for them to catch up, and Paul kept insisting that Cheryl leave them alone. When the 3 reached the campus intersection of Perimeter Road and Grand Avenue, as Cheryl lived in the Sierra Madre halls, she had to turn right. Paul's dorm, Santa Lucia Hall, was around 75 yards away after turning left, and Kristin's dorm, Muir Hall, was just behind that. From Cheryl's deposition, we know that Paul asked her for a goodbye kiss, which she thought disgusting at the time, and Paul and Kristin turned left, and Cheryl turned right, and this was the last time anyone saw Kristin alive, except Paul Flores. Paul Flores' story is that he went one way, she went another way, and that he has no further knowledge of Kristin's disappearance, and this is the story he's maintained up until this day.
I walked with her to where the driveway was, and I went up to my dorm because the walkway goes that way towards my dorm, and then she started walking that way.
The next time anyone saw Paul Flores was when he was having dinner with his friends Javier and Mike in the Lighthouse Cafe on the Cal Poly campus, and this was around 6 p.m. So if we assume they got back to the dorms at around 3 a.m, there's a 15-hour gap where we have no eyewitness sighting of Paul. What happened in those 15 hours has been the subject of much speculation and debate over the years, and I'm not going to cover those here because this video is really focused on the journey on the evening and the geographic location of some of the houses that were later searched by police. So let's take a step back up and move to some of the other relevant location. Now, one theory goes that Paul rang his father, Reuben, up in the early hours of May the 25th, and this is backed up by Susan, Paul's mother, who said to a colleague the next morning, before she knew anything about Kristin's disappearance, "Something must have happened last night, because right after my husband received a phone call in the middle of the night, he left the house like a bat out of hell." This is where they were living at the time, White Court in Arroyo Grande, California, which is approximately 15 miles from the Cal Poly campus. Could Reuben Flores have travelled to Cal Poly to assist Paul remove Kristin's body? One theory goes that Kristin's body was buried under the deck of this house, but that it was moved sometime in 2020 or 21. According to prosecutor Christopher Pouvrel talking about Reuben Flores, the excavation below his deck showed damning evidence that a body had been buried in that location and recently moved. There is another family home that was rented out, but at the time of Kristin's disappearance was empty, East Branch Street, Arroyo Grande. In the 2 days after Kristin disappeared, the Flores family poured concrete there, and there is a theory that Kristin Smart is buried under a concrete slab at the back of this house. Also, later found at this house by tenants was an earring, the description of which matched those worn by Kristin, although this was later lost in evidence. Another clue at this house was in relation to what sounded like a watch alarm going off every morning at precisely 4:20 a.m. The Lassiter family, who had rented the house, couldn't find the watch despite poking in and around the flower beds and soil near the freshly laid concrete for some time. Apparently Kristin had been working as a lifeguard at college and had to rise early to attend 5 AM shifts before classes. In April 2020, sheriff's officials served a search warrant at Paul Flores' Los Angeles residence as they sought to retrieve specific items of evidence. This location is 938 West Upland Avenue, San Pedro, and during the preliminary hearing in 2021, prosecutors said detectives had found homemade videos of Flores having sex with women who appeared intoxicated and recovered prescription drugs that could be used in the commission of date rape. Now, this house was actually searched twice inside 3 months in early 2020. The first time was with both the FBI and the Sheriff's Office. Finally, we have a home near Kenmore, Washington, and Paul's sister reportedly lives there. It is unclear at this point what evidence, if any, was recovered during the search, or what the police were hoping to find, although we do have some clues because apparently police have recovered trucks belonging to Paul and Ruben Flores that date back to the time of Kristin's disappearance, and one line of theory says that they recovered one of the vehicles at Melinda, that's Paul's sister's house, following a tip-off from her ex-husband that it was stored there. Well, that's it for this video. It did take me a lot longer to put together than I originally thought it would. Hopefully it gives you a good feel for the location in and around the campus where Kristin disappeared, and also some of the houses relating to the Flores family that have been searched over the years. I hope you like this video, and if you do, please subscribe to the channel, and then if you hit the notification bell you won't miss out on future updates on both Kristin's disappearance, the forthcoming trial, and any other videos that I publish. Bye for now.